There are moments in history when the world watches, and there are moments when the world looks away. This is one of those moments. Kharkiv, Ukraine. February 2023. A city that once hummed with life. Cafes full of laughter. Parks alive with children. Streets where people argued about football and poetry. Now echoes with a different sound. The sound of survival. This is not a story about politics. This is not a story about nations or borders or ideologies. This is a story about a father. A father who stayed behind when his daughter fled. A father who tends a garden in the ruins. A father who writes letters he's not sure will ever arrive. His name doesn't matter. His face you'll never see. But his words are all we have left of moments like these. This is his letter, written on the back of an old grocery receipt, folded into an envelope made from a page of a book, sent across a border that feels like the edge of the world. This is a letter from Kharkiv.
My dearest Anya, I hope this letter finds you safe. I hope Warsaw is kind to you. I hope you're sleeping through the night again, something neither of us has done in so long, I've almost forgotten what it feels like. I imagine you in a small apartment, maybe with a window that faces the street. I imagine you drinking tea in the morning, real tea, not the boiled weeds we've been calling tea here. I imagine you free from the sound. You know the sound, I mean. The one that starts in your chest before you even hear it. The one that lives in the silence between heartbeats. But I don't want to write to you about that. I want to write to you about the garden. You remember the garden, don't you, Anya? The little patch of earth behind the building, where your mother used to grow tomatoes and those stubborn sunflowers that always leaned toward the wrong side of the fence. It's still there. I know. I was surprised too. After everything, after the windows shattered and the walls cracked and the sky turned the terrible shade of orange-gray that has no name in any language, after all of that, the garden survived. Not untouched, of course. There's a crater where the bench used to be. The fence is gone. The tomatoes, well, they didn't make it. But the sunflowers, Anya, those stubborn, ridiculous sunflowers, they're blooming. I found them last week, half buried under rubble. Their stalks bent, but not broken. And when I cleared the debris away, there they were. Yellow and defiant and impossibly alive. Your mother would have laughed. She always said those flowers had more fight in them than sense. I think she was right. I've been tending them. Every morning before the city wakes up, if you can call it waking when the night never really ends, I go out there with a rusted watering can, and I talk to them. I tell them about you. I tell them you're safe, that you made it across, that somewhere, in another country, in another world, you're breathing air that doesn't taste like smoke. And I swear, Anya, they stand a little taller when I do. The city is learning to breathe in a new rhythm. We wake to sirens. We count the seconds between sounds. We measure time not in hours but in intervals of quiet. 3 hours of silence means you can go to the market. 20 minutes means you stay in the basement. 10 seconds means you pray. I won't lie to you, my love. It's hard. Some days it feels like the walls are closing in, like the sky is falling one piece at a time, like the ground beneath us is forgetting how to be solid. But we endure. Old Mr. Kozlov still opens his bookshop every Tuesday and Thursday. Half the shelves are empty now, and the windows are boarded up. But he sits there with his tea and his glasses, and he reads. When I asked him why, he said, because forgetting how to read would mean they've won. Mrs. Ivanova bakes bread in a makeshift oven in her cellar. The smell rises through the vents and fills the street. And for just a moment, it feels like home again. There's a boy, maybe 12 years old, who plays violin in the metro tunnels. I don't know his name. I don't know if he has family. But every evening, as people huddle together in the darkness, he plays. Tchaikovsky, Brahms, sometimes just melodies he makes up, and people cry, Anya, not because they're sad, though they are, but because they're still human, because music still means something, because beauty, somehow, hasn't died. But it's the silence that's hardest. You'd think it would be the noise, the explosions, the sirens, the sound of buildings coming apart like paper. But no, it's the silence. The silence between the sounds. The silence when you're waiting. The silence when you realize you've been holding your breath for so long you've forgotten how to let it go. In the silence, you hear everything you're trying not to think about. Where the next one will hit, if the walls will hold. If this is the last letter you'll ever write. I've learned to fill the silence, Anya. I talk to myself. I hum old songs, the ones your mother used to sing when she cooked. I count my steps when I walk, just to hear the rhythm. Anything to keep the silence from swallowing me whole. Sometimes I go to the park. What's left of it anyway? The playground is twisted metal now. The swings hanging at strange angles. The slide collapsed into itself like a broken spine. But the trees are still there. Some of them, at least. Stripped bare, scarred by shrapnel, but standing. I sit beneath them and I remember taking you there when you were small. How you'd run circles around me until you were dizzy, then collapse in the grass laughing. How your mother would pack sandwiches and we'd pretend we were on some grand adventure. Explorers in an exotic land, even though we were just 20 minutes from home. Do you remember the summer you turned 8? We went to the Kharkiv zoo. You wanted to see the elephants, but they were sleeping, so we spent the whole afternoon watching the swans in the pond instead. You said they looked like they were dancing. I said they looked like they were arguing. We laughed so hard we got scolded by the zookeeper. I think about that day a lot now. I think about how simple everything was. How the biggest worry in the world was whether we'd have time for ice cream before the bus came. I think about your mother, how she held your hand as we walked home, how the sunlight caught in her hair and made it look like gold. I think about the life we had, and I wonder if you remember it the same way, or if the distance and the time and the fear have changed it into something else. The zoo is closed now. I walked past it last month. The gates are chained shut. I don't know what happened to the animals. I don't want to know. Some questions are better left unasked. The pond is still there though, empty, cracked, filled with debris. But I stood there for a long time, looking at that water, and I swear I could still hear your laugh echoing across it. I could still see your small hand pointing at the swans, your eyes wide with wonder. Memory is a strange thing, Anya. It's the only place where everything is still whole. I need to tell you something. Something I haven't said out loud. Not to anyone, I'm afraid. Not of the bombs, not of the soldiers or the sirens or the ruins. I'm afraid I'll forget. I'm afraid that one day I'll wake up and I won't remember the sound of your laugh. That I'll look at a photograph and your face will seem like a stranger's. That the details, the little things, like the way you used to hum when you did your homework, or the way you always put too much sugar in your tea, will slip away like sand through my fingers. I'm afraid that when this is over, if this is ever over, you'll come back, and I won't know how to be your father anymore. Because this place, Anya, it changes you. The fear lives in your bones now. The alertness never fades. You flinch at car doors slamming. You scan every room for exits. You learn to say goodbye like you mean it, every single time, because you might. You become someone who measures life in moments of safety, rather than days of peace. You become someone who hoards candles and batteries, and knows exactly how many liters of water a person needs to survive a week in a basement. You become someone who can sleep through explosions, but wakes at the sound of footsteps in the hallway. I don't want you to see me like this, but I need you to know. I need you to know that I'm still here, that I'm still fighting, That every morning I wake up and I water those damned sunflowers and I tell myself, she's safe. She made it, that's enough. Because it has to be enough. Your safety, Anya, is the only victory I need. Everything else is just survival. There are good days, though. I want you to know that. Days when the sun breaks through the smoke and the city remembers what warmth feels like. Days when I see neighbors helping each other clear rubble from a doorway, or sharing what little food they have, or simply sitting together in silence because words aren't necessary anymore. There's a woman who lives 2 floors down. I think her name is Olena, who lost her son in the early days. She doesn't talk much now, but every morning, she leaves a small bouquet of wildflowers on the steps of the building. I don't know where she finds them. I don't know how she has the strength to do it. But she does. Every single morning. A tiny act of defiance against the ugliness. A reminder that beauty still exists, even here, even now. Last week, someone painted a mural on the wall of a bombed-out building. I don't know who did it or when. It appeared overnight, like magic. It's a simple thing. Just a bird in flight, wings spread wide, soaring upward. No words, no message, just a bird. But people stop to look at it. I've seen them. They stand there in the rubble and they look up at that bird, and for just a moment, something shifts in their faces. Hope, maybe? Or remembrance? Or just a stubborn insistence that we are more than this war, more than this fear, more than the sum of what's been taken from us. I've started writing things down, Anya. Not just letters to you, though those are the most important. But other things too. Memories, stories, the way the city used to smell in spring, the sound of trams rattling down Somska Street, the taste of your mother's borscht, the exact shade of her eyes. I write them down because I'm terrified they'll disappear if I don't. I write them on scraps of paper, in the margins of old books, on the backs of receipts and flyers. I hide them in jars and bury them in the garden next to the sunflowers, a time capsule of the world we lost. So that one day, when you come home, when all of this is finally over, I can show you. I can say, this was real. This is what we were. This is what they couldn't destroy. But here's the thing, my darling girl. Even in the darkest nights, and we've had dark nights, Anya. Nights so black you can't tell if your eyes are open or closed. Even then, there's still light. It comes from strange places. A candle shared between neighbors in a basement. A child's drawing taped to a shattered window. A song hummed in the rubble. The sunflowers. You're my light, Anya. Knowing you're out there, somewhere safe, somewhere the sky is just a sky and not a threat. That's what keeps me going. I don't need you to come back, not yet. Maybe not ever, if it means you're safe. But I need you to know something. This city, it's still breathing. Teimosamente, your mother would say. Stubbornly. The walls are cracked, but they're standing. The streets are empty, but they're still streets. The heart of this place, the thing that made it Kharkiv, that made it ours, it's still beating. And so am I. There are moments, Anya, rare moments when I feel something close to peace. Usually in the garden, in the early morning when the air is still and cold and the world hasn't yet decided what kind of day it will be. I stand there among the sunflowers and I close my eyes and I let myself imagine a future. A future where you come home, where we walk these streets together, and I show you the places that survived and tell you stories about the places that didn't. Where we plant new flowers in the garden, not to replace the old ones, but to grow alongside them. Where we learn how to live with what happened without letting it define us. Where we remember your mother not with grief, though there will always be grief, but with gratitude for the time we had. Is that naive? Maybe, probably, but I've learned something in these months, Anya. Hope is not about certainty, Hope is not about knowing everything will be okay. Hope is simply the decision to keep planting seeds in scorched earth. Hope is watering sunflowers in a war zone. Hope is writing letters that may never arrive. Hope is the act of living deliberately, of choosing to see tomorrow as a possibility rather than a threat. I wonder sometimes what you'll think when you read this, if you'll recognize the man who wrote it, if you'll see traces of the father who taught you to ride a bicycle, who helped you with your math homework, who made up silly songs to get you to brush your teeth. That man is still here, Anya, buried under layers of exhaustion and fear and grief, but still here. Still your father. Still the person who would give anything, to keep you safe. The other day, I found one of your old school notebooks in the apartment. I don't know how it survived when so much else was destroyed. It was tucked behind a bookshelf, covered in dust. Your handwriting, neat and careful, practicing English vocabulary, cat, dog, house, tree, sun. Such simple words, such innocent words. I sat on the floor and I read every page, tears running down my face because those words represented a world where the biggest challenge was spelling, where the future was something bright and open and full of possibility. I've kept the notebook. I carry it with me now, in the inside pocket of my coat, close to my heart. On the worst days, when the sirens wail and the ground shakes and I wonder if this is finally the day my luck runs out, I touch that notebook through the fabric and I think of you. And I find the strength to take one more breath, to endure one more hour, to make it to tomorrow. I don't know when you'll read this. Maybe in a week, maybe in a year. Maybe when all of this is just a memory, a scar we carry but no longer bleed from. But whenever it is, I want you to know, I'll be here. When the dust settles and the sirens stop and the world remembers how to be still, I'll be here. In the garden, probably, arguing with those sunflowers. Or in the kitchen, trying to make your mother's borscht and failing spectacularly, like I always do. Or at the train station, waiting. I'll be here when you come home. And if I'm not, Anya, then look for the sunflowers. They'll be here. They'll always be here. Because some things are too stubborn to die. Love is one of them. This city is another. And the hope that one day, somehow, we'll find our way back to each other. That hope, my darling girl, that hope is the most stubborn thing of all. With all my heart, always, your father.
This letter was written on March 15th, 2023. We don't know if Anya ever received it. We don't know if her father is still tending that garden. We don't know if the sunflowers are still blooming. But we know this. In every war, in every conflict, in every moment, when the world tears itself apart, there are people like him. People who stay, people who love, people who write letters in the rubble and tend gardens in the ruins, and refuse, absolutely refuse, to let hope die. This is their story. These are their voices, and as long as we listen, they're not forgotten. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, please let us know, leave a like, subscribe to this channel, and in the comments, tell us where in the world are you listening from. Because these stories, these voices, they belong to all of us. Thank you for listening, and remember, some things are too stubborn to die.